Congressman Hakeem Jeffries is a Democrat in New York, and my congressman, by the way. You have been very critical of Ms. Pearson. Is this the outcome that you wanted to see?
Well, certainly it was a welcome development. It's a step in the right direction, but the Secret Service needs a dramatic restructuring from top to bottom, an infusion of retraining of new technology, and an increased budget allocation. The Secret Service, in terms of its personnel at an optimal level, is down somewhere between 300 employees to 500 employees. That's unacceptable, particularly for an agency responsible for dealing with our nation's financial security.
Right.
And of course, most importantly, protecting the president.
Yeah, and of course, Secret Service was moved from Treasury into the Homeland Security Department. Jay Johnson apparently also really pushing to have her out. Is part of the problem, though, you know, Ms. Pearson was promoted from within. She was chief of staff to the previous director, and that maybe what they do need is somebody from outside. Is that part of the change that you'd like to see?
I think that's probably the direction that the Secret Service should go in. It's the president's decision. I'm sure he will make a careful analysis of what is most appropriate moving forward. But there is cultural rot within the agency. It's a situation where dissent is punished, where criticism is not embraced, and where covering up problems often leads to advancement. That is not a situation that is desirable for any agency, certainly not the one responsible for the president's security.
Yeah, indeed, and this position is not one that would be subject to approval by Congress. But what can Congress do to weigh in here? You said that you want to see an increased budget allocation. That's not something that seems likely in the body that you work in the House of Representatives, because nothing seems to go through.
Well, the series of security breaches were so significant. When you talk about letting an armed man with a criminal record on an elevator with the President of the United States, when you talk about someone with a knife penetrating 5 different layers of security and making his way into the East Room. Prior to that, you had an interpreter who was fake, uncredentialed, history of mental illness, a few feet away from the President. This is someone who was charged with murder in South Africa. It should cause the Congress to act in a bipartisan fashion and do what's necessary beyond, but including funding, to put the agency back on track.
Will there be more hearings? Because one of the things I think that has been refreshing is the bipartisan nature of people's outrage about this, and there doesn't seem to be any difference between Republicans and Democrats, at least not on this issue.
Absolutely. I think the bipartisan cooperation hopefully will continue in this area. Nobody wants to see the president or his family's life in jeopardy. Secret Service, of course, is also responsible for other important things, such as our nation's financial security. It's an issue where Democrats and Republicans can come together, and hopefully when we get back to Congress in November, use this momentum to build on other things for the best interests of the people of the country.
Well, that's a good question, though, because this is one sort of rare moment of bipartisanship, and the security of the first family obviously does bring sort of both parties together. But in terms of the congressional role, because there have been people who are saying that there's a budgetary issue, but is this a budgetary issue when it just seems to be more personnel behavior and leadership? Is it really budgets?
Well, budgets are a part of the problem. You can't discount the fact that the agency is down somewhere between 300 and 500 individuals. But there clearly is a management problem, which is why, to your point, I think it would be appropriate to bring in permanent leadership from the outside. You've got morale issues. You have retraining concerns that need to take place. And there's also technological upgrades necessary. There are no automatic locking mechanisms in the White House.
Yeah, well, there's one manual mechanism they can do, just lock the door. And I think that's one of the things that we've seen come out of this. Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, appreciate you being here. Thank you.